Okay, good afternoon once again. Yeah, please, hope I'm audible enough and you can all hear me. Good afternoon once again, and welcome to the RETTI webinar series. Emmanuel Aremu, thank you for joining from Ota, Nigeria. So we'll be kicking off the RETTI webinar series officially, and then this is the official the first webinar of the year, and I trust we all had wonderful holiday season. So right before we start the webinar officially, I would just like to encourage us to have our writing materials close by with us, and also mute our mics when we are not speaking, and also the question and answer sections we come right after the speaker is done with his presentation. And also, if you have any questions, you can either put it on the chat box, or you can raise your hand and ask your questions. And I'm sure that the speaker will attend to all of our questions. Okay, I can see Mr. Emmanuel from Ghana, and also David joining from Abuja, Nigeria. So I want to say welcome to the RETTI webinar series. My name is Solomon Uche. I'm the technical administrator and facilitator at RETTI, also the moderator for this call. So welcome to the webinar. And right before that, I also want to call on Miss Glory Ogwebu for the introduction and welcome notes. Miss Glory, ma'am, thank you. Hello. Sorry, please, can you hear me?
Oh, my apologies. Hello. Can everyone hear me now? I've been speaking. I never knew I was on mute.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Please forgive me. Welcome all. Welcome to our first webinar of the year for a very important subject matter. Can you hear me, guys? Please confirm. I think my volume is down. Can you write on the chat if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Welcome once again all. Today is a very important topic. It is an area of interest in today's clean energy world. Happy to welcome you to the webinar, Hydrogen Production from Solar PV. It's my next webinar. We want people to know what's going on in this sector and what the opportunities are. Many people do not know that there is a way you can generate hydrogen gas from solar power. So the whole agenda for this program is not for you to quickly just then leave the webinar and go and start your business immediately to generate hydrogen gas, but it is to point out to you the opportunities that exist so you can do further research, so you can see how easy it is to generate hydrogen gas from solar. And for some of you that have joined that are PhD scholars or researchers, it can just add to your body of knowledge, and you can use information that you're going to learn here today to enrich your own research, right? Many of you who are students, entrepreneurs, clean energy enthusiasts, you all are the drivers of the future innovation, right? And our session is definitely designed to inspire you and also equip you with the insights that you need to shape your journey in clean energy space as you go ahead. So today you're going to learn a deep understanding of hydrogen production from solar PV, like what it is all about. Like it is one of the promising areas, pathways to achieve this clean and sustainable future that we need. In Africa, 600 million people still lack electricity access. I mean, how can we utilize all of the opportunities that are made available, including from solar power, not just generating only solar power from solar PV, but also generating hydrogen from solar PV. Today, you're going to learn how all that works together in addition with hydropower, right? You're also going to learn good insight that you can use in terms of business opportunities. How can this be used in our everyday life? How can hydrogen gas be used in our everyday life? And if you already have solar farm, if you already have a solar installation on your rooftop, do you think the hydrogen gas that you can generate hydrogen as well? So that whole body of knowledge what you're going to learn today. So you're going to also learn about the technology, right? Today we have a speaker, one of the best there is in the field of hydrogen research. He doesn't just know about hydrogen that he learned it in school, no, but he has researched deeply about it. And he'll be able to offer us today just that pathway and the opportunities that there are in the sector. Today as well, please feel free to network on the chats. If you see people that you know, say hello to the chat and connect with one another afterwards. We often encourage people to connect immediately on LinkedIn if you can see the people. Of course, you can see the list on the chat box. So, welcome, expand your knowledge, explore ideas on clean energy, or discover any business opportunities that there is. The webinar has something for you. Okay, so let's make sure that we can seize the opportunity to learn, to engage, and just build a sustainable future. Thank you. Over to you now, Mr. Emmanuel. Sorry, Mr. Solomon. Pardon me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Glory, for that wonderful introduction to the subject matter. Yes, it was quite insightful, I must say. Thank you so much. So right before I call on our expert speaker for today, he is a civil engineering lecturer at the Covenant University of Nigeria and also heads the R&D department of the Renewable Energy Technology Training Institute, RETTI, Nigeria. He is a Warsaw Climate PhD Fellow, a Dutch German Academic Exchange Service Scholar, and a recipient of a number of awards, including the European Geoscience Union Award for Young Scientists and the ISARA African Award of Excellence. He is a visiting researcher at the Jewish Research Center, Germany. He is passionate about collaborating, mentoring other young leaders and think tanks towards the achievement of the UN SDG goals, especially SDG 7, ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all, and the SDG 13, taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. He is early career researcher. His research interests includes hydropower, geohydro, clean energy, especially green hydrogen for climate change and mitigation, and floating PV systems, photovoltaic. So join me with a warm welcome to welcome our expert speaker for the webinar, Engineer Emmanuel Aremu. Please, Engineer Emmanuel Aremu, welcome and good afternoon again. It's good to have you, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Engineer Solomon. I believe everyone can hear me. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. All right. Just a minute.
Please, can you make sure that he can share his screen? Engineer Solomon, make sure he can share his screen. Make him host. Thank you. Please continue, sir.
All right. So which I'm expecting. So allowed to share my screen. So I'll share my screen. So thanks so much everyone for joining this webinar series. And I want to be rating in this opportunity. We like to get some of the thoughts and not with regard to green energy generation from Latin. All right, so I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. Please kindly verify expect on.
Mr. Solomon, can you hear me? Give him access, please. Make him the host so he can share his screen.
Okay, so while we are waiting,
Notice later on the task, we will be able to find opportunities for voluntary internship opportunities to give you the experience that you need. Okay, Mr. Emmanuel, please, you can start.
okay, all right, thank you so much for that. Okay, I think once it start recording, I think I will not be able to share. Maybe I should record from my end. The sharing has been turned off again, so let's just try. Can you hear me?
I'm so sorry about that. Can you send me your? Are you able to send your
Yeah,
slides?
yeah.
What's going on?
I've given you the permission. Yes, I've granted him the permission, ma'am.
Okay, now I have the permission. I have the permission. I can share now. Okay. All right. So I'm going to be sharing my screen just in minutes. Okay. So I believe everybody can see my screen. All right. So today we're going to be talking about generating hydrogen from solar PV. So exploring an untapped gold mine of clean energy. So as I've been introduced, so Engineer Emmanuel, I'm also a researcher and a lecturer at Permanent University, Nigeria. So today we are going to be looking at some outlines. So that's green hydrogen, a fuel for the clean energy transition. Green hydrogen as an option for climate change mitigation, hydrogen production methods, how is hydrogen produced, the concept of green hydrogen production from solar PV, growth trends of green hydrogen refueling stations, emerging technologies. So research is ongoing. There are new innovations, technologies are coming on board. So also look at the RETTI solar factory in Nigeria, a research case study, solar potential of Africa, recent research on floating PV in Africa, and then finally look at green hydrogen production potential of floating PV on existing hydropower dams in Africa. So we hope to do this in the next 30 minutes, and then we'll give chance for question and answers. All right, so generally, it has been noted that the production of green hydrogen can help to advance the transition to a low carbon, climate neutral world that could create benefit for all. So there's a lot of research that is going on this, and this has been made as a proposal and a conclusion that green hydrogen can help to advance that transition that most countries need to transition to clean energy. All right, so looking at climate change, so it's also proposed to be an option for climate change mitigation. As gas stations, which can also help to safeguard the environment and mitigate climate change. So we are going to see some of the problem with climate change as we go ahead. So as you can see on my graph, so one of the most challenging situations in the world right now is the emission of CO2. So right from looking at this trend, right from 750, when we got to the industrial age around 1900, that's 1900, there was an increasing trend in CO2 emission. So up until 2019, you can see that we have up to like 36.912 billion metric tons of emission. And looking at the concentration in the atmosphere, it also kept increasing. As at 2019, we have almost 409.28 parts per million CO2 in the atmosphere. So this global carbon dioxide emission mostly comes from fossil fuel combustion, our petrol, our diesels, and all of those dirty fuels in a way. So those are the things that are responsible for the CO2 emission. And also this increases the global atmospheric concentration, and this is what leads to global warming. So you can see that so many things are happening. Like we have been reading the news recently about what is happening in Los Angeles, about the fire and all of those things, and then um, Florida freezing, and so many parts of the world. You can see that the climate is changing, erratic rainfalls, droughts in some places, and all of that. This is because of CO2 emission, which is causing global warming all over the world. All right, so what is now the solution for that? So the solution is to transition from this fossil fuel to more cleaner fuels. So one of these clean fuels is green hydrogen. So green hydrogen, one of the benefits of it is that it does not emit CO2. So the only byproduct of green hydrogen is water. So when you use it as a fuel, for example, in your car, the only byproduct is water. So we have different hydrogen production methods. Those that are familiar with hydrogen, we know some of these methods. So we have like the gray hydrogen. So we produce that through the steam methane reforming. So this is the most common, actually, the most common method for hydrogen production. But the challenge with this is that it produces CO2, and also it requires a large amount of heat for you to produce it. So, but it's cheaper. It's actually cheaper than one of the cheapest hydrogen production method. So also we have the blue hydrogen. So the difference between the blue hydrogen and the gray hydrogen is that in blue hydrogen, you capture your CO2. That's using the carbon capture technology. So in other words, you don't emit CO2, but then it is not 100% efficient. Yeah, so that's why it is called blue hydrogen. So blue hydrogen, you still use steam methane reforming, gasification, but then you capture your CO2 with carbon capture technology. Then we have the pyrolysis. So the pyrolysis method is also a process for hydrogen production, but then this you use your thermal energy to break down your methane. So that's your CH4. So at the end of the day, you have your hydrogen gas and you have your solid carbon. But then also this is also not very efficient like um, gray hydrogen. So, but there's a lot of research that's going on turquoise hydrogen. Also, we have the green hydrogen, which is electrolysis, the electrolysis method. So, in this is the most efficient one in terms of avoiding CO2 emission. So in green hydrogen, the production is from renewable energy sources like your solar, just like we are looking at this, from solar, from wind turbines, from hydropower. So, and then you generate the electricity, and the electricity is used in the production of green hydrogen. And we are going to see that as we progress. So also, depending on the production method, so hydrogen can be gray, it can be blue, it can be green, sometimes even pink, yellow, and turquoise. So the color code is based on the hydrogen, the production method. All right, so today we are going to be focusing majorly on green hydrogen. So that's our focus for this webinar. So how is green hydrogen produced? So the technology behind this is majorly electrolysis. So electrolysis is a key technology for green hydrogen production. So in simple terms, you split your water. So the chemical formula for water is H2O. So you use electricity to split the H2 and the oxygen. So at the end of the day, you have your oxygen and you have your hydrogen. So this is the hydrogen gas that we call green hydrogen. So the major feedstock, like your raw material for this, is water. Water. All the other methods, you need methane, you need natural gas, you need coal, but you can see water everywhere. Water is almost all around us. So you just use your water, and then you use electricity to split the water, that's to generate your hydrogen. So for this one, we use the energy sources, hydropower, solar, or wind, any renewable energy. And then you have your clean water. So the water must be pure. It has to go through some purification. So there's a standard of water that you can also use. You cannot just use any kind of water. And when this hydrogen is produced, you can store it either in gaseous form or liquid form, and then you can transport it. Also, you can also have some other byproducts from like ammonia and other byproducts. So once it's stored, you can transport it to anywhere in the world. For example, you can produce hydrogen in Nigeria and you can export it to Europe, you can export it to America or any part of the world, and it can be used for some of the applications we are going to see. All right, so let's focus a little on solar green hydrogen from solar PV. So how do we produce that? Majorly your solar PV arrays, maybe on the roof of your house. So the electricity generated from solar ration, and when you use instantly, that's what many of us do, grid or on grid. But then, what of in the case whereby you have excess of electricity generation? What do you do with that? What do you do with that excess? Yeah, there are two technologies to store this excess hydrogen. You have your um, you have your battery, but then you have hydrogen. So hydrogen is just like an energy storage. So now, how do we produce that? So you have your electrolyzer. So the electricity generated from your solar PV array is connected to your electrolyzer. We have different types of electrolyzer. So like the PEM electrolyzer, you're going to see some of those types, solid oxide electrolyzer, alkaline. So you get the machine that separates the water from the oxygen. Sorry, the hydrogen from the oxygen. So your electricity connected to your electrolyzer, and then you generate your hydrogen. And then once the hydrogen is generated, you can compress it using a compressor. It's generated in gaseous form. You can compress it into liquid form, and then you can transport it using hydrogen storage, different hydrogen storage techniques. And once you store it, you can transport it. So apart from that, you can also use it in your fuel cell electric vehicles. Like we have um, some hydrogen vehicles already very common in different parts of the world, like in Germany, in China, some other countries in America. Also, you can use it in your stationary fuel cell. It will serve like a generator. So what of in a situation whereby your electricity from maybe at night, for example, you have low electricity generation from solar PV. So when you have excess generation that has been stored already in your that has been stored, you can use this at night when there's low generation from solar PV array. So this is one of the advantages of hydrogen generation. All right, so let's proceed quickly. So let's look at some present and future hydrogen applications. So some of the applications are in power and heat generation. So power generation for grid, power buffering, H2 addition to natural gas, heat and power for buildings, heat and power for industry. You also use it in industry feedstock, just like I said, in ammonia production, steel production, chemical industries use it, synthetic gas, hydrocracking, hydrogenation, even cement industries. So we also use it in passenger and goods transportation, like your fuel cell forklifts, H2 power vehicles, H2 power trains, H2 power aircrafts, H2 power shipping. So quite a lot of applications. So as you can see, these are some of the applications, so like the generator for your car, for your bus, even a lot of research are going on for airplanes, hydrogen-powered airplanes, also for shipping. There are currently hydrogen-powered trains that are currently running in some part of the world. Yeah, so let's look at the growth trend. So as you can see, there has been a growth trend in hydrogen production and also in refueling stations worldwide. Looking at 2014, for example, we have less than 200 refueling stations worldwide, less than 200. But then with time, getting to 2023, we have over 900 already. So that's really a very spontaneous growth, over 900 refueling stations worldwide, hydrogen refueling stations worldwide. So most of these hydrogen refueling stations are concentrated in Asia, they are concentrated in America, like in Africa, as you can see on my map, there is none yet in Africa. The one that is only proposed or that is being planned is in Namibia. So that's the yellow. The yellow on the map means that it's planned. The green shows that it's in operation, while the gray is like old project. So like if you look at the map of Africa, there's no hydrogen station. No hydrogen station. The only one that is being planned currently is in Namibia. So hopefully very soon it will be launched. And we hope that Africa also will take the lead. So, and the irony is that Africa has a lot of potential. All right, so let's look at the emerging technologies. Emerging technologies. So currently, research is going on producing hydrogen directly from solar panels. So a team of researchers in Belgium has already developed a um, solar panel that can produce hydrogen without having to buy electrolyzers and some other components. What does that mean? It means that you can place this on your roof, and then with that you can generate hydrogen. So what does it use as a like feedstock, the raw material? So basically your air moisture. So you get water from the air moisture, and then you have your sunlight, and then as the solar panel receives the air moisture and then receive the sunlight, and with that it generates both electricity and generates hydrogen. So at the end of the day, you have hydrogen and oxygen as a product from this solar panel. So you can check it online. It's developed by SoHide. This is being developed by SoHide, and it is proposed that they are going to megawatts 2027. 2027, we'll get to megawatt scale and keep growing. So this is really a game changer in the solar industry. All right, so also in Africa, we have this RETTI solar panel factory. So Africa is coming on. The RETTI is leading the change in Nigeria, especially. So by building a solar panel factory to set a bridge, a gap in the African manufacturing divide. This time we most of our solar panel, but then RETTI is developing the factory, and 70% of materials that are being used in the solar factory are made in Nigeria. This is a good thing about this. So are made in Nigeria, therefore local businesses experience a boost within the value chain. This will also support green hydrogen production from solar PV. So this is a good thing that is being done in RETTI. So and this is going to change a lot in the African landscape. All right, so let us look at a research case study. Just a research case study, hydrogen potential from floating PV in existing hydropower dams in Africa. We just look at this case study in one of our research that we are conducting. All right, so but before we go into that, there's a very like a good news in a way. European Investment Bank actually has said that the new study confirms that Africa has extraordinary green hydrogen potential that is worth almost a trillion what Africa is sitting on. Africa is sitting on green hydrogen potential of over like €1 trillion. Just imagine that. Yeah. So as we all know, Africa is the world's second largest continent. It's bounded by Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and Atlantic Ocean. So in this research, we actually evaluated green hydrogen potential from floating PV in 31 African countries. 31 African countries. These include Egypt, Ethiopia, Ghana, Nigeria, and others, as we're going to see. So also from previous studies by H2 Atlas, it has been said that West Africa alone, that's ECOWAS countries, has a green hydrogen potential of over 160 petawatt hour. Over 160 petawatt. This is huge. This is a huge potential just only for West Africa, not to talk of the whole of Africa, as you can see by has been said by the European Investment Bank. All right, so let's look at also the solar potential of Africa. So according to a German solar industry association, so they reported that Africa has the world's largest floating PV power generating potential. So we have the largest floating PV power generating potential in the world. So and also we are the leader, like we are leading the world in solar power potential. Africa leads in the world. Africa leads the world in solar power potential. On an average, Africa has about 4.51 kilowatt hour per day of solar radiation. So is this is that's like 3.44, is like the next 4.48. So Africa is leading when it comes to solar power potential. All right, so the good news about it is that this vast potential and excess energy output from both PV, that's ground mounted PV or floating PV, can be a feedstock for green hydrogen production in Africa. So this can be one of our an advantage for us to produce green hydrogen in Africa. So looking at the floating PV, let's look at exploiting floating PV potential in Africa. So it has been said that the continent, like Africa as a continent, has over 100,000 square kilometers of freshwater reservoirs, and this can be used for floating solar farms. This can over 100,000 square kilometers of freshwater. So exploiting just 1% of this surface area would give about 100 gigawatt potential, more than 8 times the continent's overall installed solar capacity. So just using as the water surface, just 1% of it, it will give us over like 100 gigawatts of energy generation. And also it will give us about 167 tetrawatt hour of yearly energy output. That's from floating PV alone. So the good news is that some African countries have started taking the bull by the horn. We've started using this technology, like in Seychelles. They are building the world's largest saltwater floating solar power plant. So the first floating solar power plant is actually in Seychelles, and they are building the largest salt water floating solar power plant. Also, Ghana is they've launched one already in the Biu at the power station. So they have their first floating solar PV. So about 6 countries also, like 6 countries in general, are already following suit, and hopefully many other countries will follow suit and take advantage of this potential. All right, so let's look at some recent research. So the recent research has shown that integrating this floating PV into Africa hydropower dams. So most of the floating PV are installed in integrated with. So doing this has enormous potential, meaning that you can generate electricity from hydropower and at the same time generate electricity from floating PV. And this has huge advantage, like preventing evaporation, increasing the energy generation. So this integration could double install capacity and improve energy generation by 58%. That's more than half. 58% of energy being generated, which can play a pivotal role in Africa's renewable energy transition. So this is a study that has been done by Sanchez et al. In 2021. So in our own research, so we look at exploring the opportunity to produce this green hydrogen from floating PV in the existing hydropower dams in Africa. So what we did is that we used secondary data from literature to do the analysis, and we used 3 scenarios. We use different for different scenarios. So we use the alkaline approach and the site electrolyzer. So we estimate correspond greenhouse gas. So the whole idea of it is to greenhouse that is being. That's why we have signed the Paris Agreement. All right. So look at this in Africa in the highest has means that it followed by followed by 2. So if Africa, you can look at your own country on the map on this graph. So look at your country as by 2. Here we have Nigeria, like that. So the number of countries has potential. So looking at Egypt has like a potential of 0.189 megatons. That's 189 tons of green hydrogen potential from floating PV alone. That's not with ground-mounted PV. That's just floating PV in hydropower dams. And then we have Mozambique. They have about 136,000 tons of green hydrogen potential. And then we have Ethiopia, which has about 118,000 tons. That's also 0.118 megatons of hydrogen potential. And this is using the PEM electrolyzer, that's the proton exchange membrane electrolyzer. So this electrolyzer has the highest potential out of the three electrolyzers that we consider. We look at alkaline, we look at PEM, and we look at solid oxide electrolyzer. So PEM has the highest potential of about 1.282 tons of hydrogen annually from all the countries, while the solid oxide electrolyzer has the lowest potential. So if you are buying an electrolyzer, PEM can be a go-to. All right, so looking at the petroleum gasoline replacement, so the replacement potential reveals that Egypt can replace about 716.97 million liters of gasoline with the green hydrogen produced using PEM electrolyzer. What that means is that this 0.189 megatons can replace 716.97 million liters of gasoline in Egypt. And then we have it for all countries like that. So the total green hydrogen potential from floating PV from all the 31 countries can replace about 4,853 million liters of gasoline, that's petrol, combustion for all countries in Africa, which will contribute to the decarbonization goal of Africa. So this is one of the advantage. So let's look at the CO2 emission reduction. So if we decide to use green hydrogen to replace gasoline, so what is the amount of CO2 that will be reduced? So our study estimated that about 1,649 tons of CO2 will be prevented in Egypt if gasoline combustion is replaced with green hydrogen produced from PEM electrolyzer. So, and in total, for the 31 African countries, so a total of about 11,164 tons of CO2 will be prevented through the replacement of gasoline with green hydrogen, just only from floating PV. And this will contribute to about 4% reduction of the total 1,311 megatons of CO2 emission reported in the transportation, electricity, and heat production sectors in the year 2021 in Africa. So, and if we scale this to ground-mounted solar PV, this can definitely increase our CO2 reduction goal. All right, so we also did an atlas. We did an atlas, so I just did a screenshot. So we did an atlas for all these 31 countries. So there's a link. You can just click on it. You see the potential for each country. So for Nigeria, you see the hydropower potential, the floating PV potential. The hydropower potential for Nigeria is like 5,000 gigawatts hour. Floating PV 4,000 gigawatt hour. Then the green hydrogen from that is about 114,000 tons of green hydrogen. And then we also look at the water consumption because the feedstock is water. So definitely you're going to be using a lot of water for the green hydrogen. So like in Nigeria, for example, to produce this amount of hydrogen, you're going to use almost around 4.1 million liters of water. And then you can use this hydrogen for re-electrification, like instead of using fossil fuel generator like your petrol diesel, you can use hydrogen generator. And using all of this hydrogen, you can have over 2,286 gigawatts of electricity generation, and then to replace about 432 million liters of petrol and also reduce the CO2 emissions. So we have it for the 31 African country. This is an atlas. All right, so in conclusion, the PEM electrolyzer has the highest potential for all countries, with Egypt having the highest green hydrogen potential from floating PV. And then Africa as a whole in 2021, it was reported that we generated about 1,311 megatons of CO2. And using green hydrogen generated from floating PV alone can reduce this by 4% if the gasoline is replaced with green hydrogen. So the study concludes that green hydrogen production from floating PV in existing hydropower dams can, as part of existing energy mix, can enhance energy transition and decarbonization and be a good source of revenue generation in Africa. Africa can export a lot of this hydrogen. We can have more than enough. The study actually shows that Namibia can generate more than they can use. So meaning that they will generate enough and export excess of that. And some other countries in Africa also has that potential if it is harnessed. So this is also to encourage every one of us to do more research and also look into how we can be a part of this. All right, so this will be the end of my presentation. I want to thank the RETTI team once again. I also want to thank all my listeners for your rapt attention. Thank you so much. So I'll be handing over to Mr. Solomon for if there are any questions, and I'll provide answers. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Engineer Emmanuel, for that wonderful and insightful presentation. Wow, it tells us the whole lot of potential we have here in Africa, which we haven't even tapped into. So I believe that each and every one of us, we take up the step, the research, and then join the team, because I can see a lot of people from the comments that are also into research and all of that. So this is where the section and answers come in. So if we have all our questions ready, so you can identify by just raising up your hand and then unmute yourself to ask your question, or you just type it on the chat box, and then I'm sure that Engineer Emmanuel will attend to all of our questions. So I don't know if there's anyone with any questions.
Okay, so I want to make just a quick question. Something very interesting that you said, Engineer Emmanuel, about the possibility of replacing gasoline or diesel or any of those other fossil based. Sorry about the noise. any other of the fossil based fuels or energy sources with hydrogen. I thought that's very interesting. And then I saw the number of the CO2 that it's going to reduce. But what do you think is really the feasibility of doing that in the present time? I mean, I see a lot of opportunities for hydrogen gas, for green hydrogen. But how do you think, like, is there already something being done in that space? Are there some groups that have tried that or is trying that to use hydrogen as a replacement for other forms of crude oil that are currently in use? What do you think is the feasibility or the possibility of doing that? It would be nice to just know your thoughts around that.
All right, thank you so much, the CEO, for that question. So let me just share my screen once again and just share this. So to answer that question, now let's look at the scenario where, like in Nigeria, where we have a lot of Okada men. Okada, that's a motorcycle business. So, sorry, I'm trying to. So, can you see my screen? I believe you can see my screen.
Yes, we.
Okay, now imagine, let's just look at this scenario. Imagine Okada having this kind of solar panel that can produce hydrogen on the roof of his house. Okay, and currently, in MIT, I believe MIT, there's this university that are currently developing a motorbike that runs on hydrogen. That's the motorcycle now that runs on hydrogen. So imagine once this kind of motorcycle goes into full production, and then people buys it, and then you can produce this hydrogen in your house, and like with this kind of solar PV. So meaning that you can actually be refueling your own motorcycle right in your own house without having to go to a petrol station, or let me say to buy petrol and all of that. So there are a lot of, meaning that just with water in your house, or let me say the air moisture and then the sun that is over your roof, and with this solar panel, you generate hydrogen and then you put it, just a simple case like the motorcycle, and then in the morning you ride the motorcycle, and then you don't need to spend much money, because what you are spending is just maybe on the capital of acquiring the solar panels and then maybe water. That's all. So, well, it's an emerging technology, like a lot of things are still going on, but then it is being said that getting to like the year 2030, there will be more innovations and there will be more applications. So we have less applications, especially in places like Africa, but there are a lot of applications already going on in places like Europe, in Asia, and some other countries. So, and also one of the things that is causing like a drag back, for example, in many places is markets. So once we have enough markets, then we are going to have more visibility in hydrogen generation. So that's just what I would say about that. Have I answered the question?
Oh yeah, yes. Yes, I agree that it's still an emerging space, and it's important to start conversations like this. I also like that these types of conversations have begun in certain interesting spaces. And thank you for the work that you're doing as well in the space to respond to these questions. Okay, over to you, please, Mr.
All right. Okay. So we have a couple of hands raised. I would like to call on Miss Chugu to ask our questions. Miss Chugu, please go ahead with your question. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Solomon, and thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, for your presentation. First thing is that I would like to encourage everyone who is interested in further research into hydrogen, both blue and green hydrogen, to look at the African Green Hydrogen Alliance. It's currently run, the members right now are Morocco, Egypt, Namibia, where there's actual production or use of green hydrogen. So getting in touch with that alliance, or at least subscribing to the research that they do, would give a lot more information on the applicability of this hydrogen. Now, my question to Engineer Emmanuel is this. I agree that this is an emerging technology. And in the past, we saw solar as too expensive to invest into. And now the cost of solar has gone down. It's now 10 times cheaper than what it was in 2015. The question here is not about green hydrogen in itself. It's about the storage. It's about the infrastructure needed to store and to transmit it. That is the cost that affects the feasibility of this sort of technology in Africa, because we don't have that. If we take aside the cost of green hydrogen, what is the cost of production of green hydrogen? What is the cost of the infrastructure needed to implement this on a large scale? The second question I had, because we are comparing the end goal for us, as you mentioned during your presentation, is to reduce the amount of CO2 being emitted into the atmosphere to sort of reduce the negative impact of climate change. If we take green hydrogen on its own and fossil fuel on its own, even green or blue hydrogen, of course, we see that the hydrogen alternatives are less polluting. But then if we look at the entire value chain of production, what minerals are needed to produce the batteries needed to store hydrogen? What minerals are needed to produce solar panels? How polluting is the process of extraction of these minerals? And then is it possible to do a cost analysis of okay, in the entire value chain of production, how much do these other renewable energy sources actually emit? Because we need to consider this. We have gotten stuck in a mindset where we have painted renewable energy as good and fossil fuels as bad. On its own, yes. But when we look at the entire value chain, have we done, or do you think, does there exist this sort of comparative analysis on the entire value chain of fossil fuels versus renewables to see the extraction of these fossil fuels from beginning to end, what is the balance of hydrogen, carbon dioxide within the atmosphere to sort of offset the carbon that is being done in the long term. Thanks so much for your presentation.
Oh, all right, thank you so much. I think I can proceed to answer um, answer the question. All right, so yes, I will answer the question from a research standpoint. So yeah, one of the when we remove the cost of production from green hydrogen, okay, we are looking at the cost of infrastructure and for storage and some other things. So now, one of the things that has been lacking in a way is a policy framework and investments to support this kind of thing. Like most of the places where we have like a leading hydrogen production or storage and infrastructure has been supported mostly by the government. It has been widely supported by the government. So, but from the research from my some years of research, I've discovered that, like in Africa, for example, it's just some countries that already their government are already supporting, they're already working on policies and all of that. There's like a paper that actually talk about the policies that are supporting hydrogen production in Africa. And as at that time, when the paper was published, like there's no policy at all. So currently, some countries are already waking up. Like we have the Namibia hydrogen strategy. We have, I think South Africa is also coming up on board. So it cannot be done by only one person. It has to be a like IPP, like public-private partnership. So where the government is supporting, where the private also comes on board, and then it has to be done like a collaboration like that. So, but for us to have infrastructure to support hydrogen production in Africa, a lot of investment has to go into that, and then it has to be largely supported um, by the government. So, talking about the value chain, the entire value chain, yes, comparing fossil fuel with hydrogen. Yes, I think this is not the first time I'm also hearing coming across this kind of question. Yeah, so definitely a lot of research are still ongoing, but then looking at the CO2 emission from fossil fuel, it is clear that fossil fuel emits more CO2 than hydrogen. What am I trying to say? Like, for example, in green hydrogen, we have majorly water, and then we have the let's say the solar panel, for example, where we can look like the solar panel production. But then yes, research are ongoing in that line. So, but on my own side, I've not really done, let me say, a comparative analysis. But this is a very good research area that I can actually also look into. So, but yeah, generally, based on the current research, hydrogen, especially green hydrogen, is still more is still more useful. Like it emits low CO2 compared to other fossil fuel like petrol, diesel, and all of that. So, but then these are an interesting research area. So I think that's what I will say about that. So if there are any other questions, I think I'll have my email. We can also have this kind of. All right, thank you very much. Okay, over
Okay,
to you, Regina.
thanks. Do we have any other hands raised? Lumide Lala, you have
Yes,
now. Please take the floor.
we have.
Good morning, good morning or good afternoon, Mr. Aremo, and thank you very much for your presentation. I think I just without going into the cost analysis around value chain itself. I think one of the areas that I would like you to further some research in, and that would be helpful, is the practicality of implementing all of these solutions that you've mentioned. So you gave some examples. For instance, you talked about the fact that we put the solar panels on the roof. The water required has to be pure. Also, in terms of, you made reference to the potential of an Okada man, for instance, who is able to charge his energy at home rather than buy fuel. Well, I kind of ask a question. Most of us probably have boreholes in our houses. Those waters that come out of it are not exactly pure. The water in the atmosphere is not exactly pure enough. It's probably not enough to generate the level of hydrogen you're looking for. The cost of infrastructure itself. And I kind of wonder how many Okada men actually have their own houses and are able to put solar panels on their roof. Because the challenge you're going to have as a tenant is having your landlord allow you put your solar panels on your roof. Even if you can afford it, that is. The reason why it's taken so long to even implement solar panels today, in spite of the fall in price, is still yet the cost associated with it. Now, I'm glad that we're having a lot of in-country production now relative to the amount of solar panels that we import, because obviously the fall in price of solar panels globally has been negated by the challenges we've had with FX recently. So we're moving in the right direction, but I think we cannot think about these things just in a theoretical bubble. We need to expand it into the practical side. And in all honesty, I also believe that the reason why solar panels, and I've been trying to finance things like this for the last 15 years, the reason why solar panels is taking off is because, as you said, there's been a policy that's removed the subsidy from petrol or diesel in Nigeria. But I think we need to focus on the financial practicality of bringing these things to bear, either en masse or even in limited situations such as mini grids and the likes, even within communities. But I think you're in a good path. But I'm just, you talked about 2030 and it taking off. 2030 is only 5 years away. If I look at what has happened in the last 15 years and the pace at which we've gone, I doubt very much if we'll not be having the same conversation in 5 years' time. But good research, and I just hope that you incorporate some of the financial models into this research as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think there's a question on the chat. Solomon, read that out.
Okay, yeah, well, there's a question here from David. He said, thank you for the deep research work, Mr. Emmanuel, considering that green hydrogen is currently the most expensive type of hydrogen to produce and grade the cheapest. And with all the potentials of green hydrogen in Africa, how prepared are we in Nigeria and in Africa in terms of cost, reduction, storage, and policies, or at least the potentials of preparedness? That's a question from David. Engineer Emmanuel, I hope you got the question.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Lala, for that contribution and also question in a way. So talking about the practicality of implementing this technology. Yeah, so 1,000 steps or 1,000, like everything begins little. So one thing about the practicality of implementing this technology is that just like we mentioned, before, solar panels in Nigeria, for example, it has been a huge tax. A lot of people cannot afford it, but then little by little, you can see the infiltration into the market and all of that. And yeah, and I think one of the things that's also responsible for this is the economic, that's the ability to purchase these kind of things. So, well, this is also where I will also say that also the government can also like put on programs that can also aid the implementation. Once the government see, okay, the benefit of this kind of technology, they can also support, like subsidize, just like maybe subsidize or give incentives to, in a way, to help to facilitate the implementation. So it cannot be the individual basis. Yes, the individual can try his best and all of that, but when the government provide enough support to implement this, and this is one of the things that is also being seen in a lot of countries, like in Europe, like for example in Germany. When I was in Germany, for example, there was a lot of solar panels, a lot of winds and all of that. It's very common technology that's very cheap, and then people can easily get it. But in Africa, we see that we, in a way, we are lacking them. But when if the government can provide support, we can also have more implementation. I think you were saying something about balls and water that maybe they are not completely pure. But yes, there are now avoidable technologies that can help you to actually purify water. So, which they are not too expensive, like water filters and all of those things. So, these are things that we can also look into. All right. So, I think, okay, so let me answer the
Okay.
question in the chat. Okay, you
Please go.
want to say something? Okay, all right. So considering the green hydrogen is currently most expensive type, yes, it's the most expensive type of hydrogen to produce, especially um because of the capital cost. That's it's very capital intensive. So why? Because you have to purchase electrolyzer, you have to have your renewables and all of that. So, but one of the things that's like the technology from So Hide is trying to do is also to reduce the capital cost. That's the capex, the capital expenditure. So, meaning that, like for example, you just have to buy like just this solar panel alone that can produce hydrogen. The electrolyzer has already been incorporated into the solar panel. So, well, a lot of concerning the techno-economic analysis, that's the cost. Will it become cheaper? Yes, a lot of I can't say yet, but studies are still ongoing. So that's like, for example, one of the places that it has been seen that hydrogen can be one of the can be the can be gotten cheaper is in Africa, because we have abundant renewable electricity. So we can have, at the end of the day, maybe 1 kg of hydrogen at $1. So, but then their researches are ongoing on this, on bringing down the cost of green hydrogen production. So concerning the preparedness in Nigeria and Africa in terms of cost reduction, well, I think a lot of bodies are coming on board to sensitize and to create awareness. I think one of our guests mentioned the African Hydrogen Alliance. I think I've come across them also. So these are bodies that are coming on board. Also, for Nigeria as a whole, we have a lot of organizations that are also coming together to sensitize and to also carry out research. And recently, I saw that the government, especially in Nigeria, is also starting to work on the policy. I think there's a policy now that is being drafted. I think that's already been published for to support hydrogen production in Nigeria. You can check that on the on LinkedIn. I think on the ECOWAS page of German Nigerian Hydrogen organization. So, but yeah, Nigeria also is coming on board, though a little, but then some countries haven't gone far, like Namibia. Namibia has a lot of hydrogen projects ongoing currently, as I'm talking to lots, a lot. It's already becoming like an hydrogen hub of Africa. So, another countries are also coming on board, but Nigeria, yeah, we are going there, but I think we are still slow in terms of catching up with the pace of the technology. So, yeah, I think that's what I can say. So it all depends on government adoption, government coming on board. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, I really agree with most of what you have said. There's clearly an interest in hydrogen. There is, I mean, we are all aware of the opportunities that are involved for clean energy and all of that. We're also aware of the challenges that can come with that.
So I think you are muted. You're muted.
Oh my God. So sorry, I was on mute. Hello,
Yeah,
guys.
you're muted. Yeah.
I was talking. So I was just saying thank you everyone for joining. I really love the engagement. Clearly, there is a opportunity in the green hydrogen space for to promote clean energy. But of course, there are also challenges with the deployment, with the development, deployment, and of course, it's the hydrogen itself reaching the end users. So I really love all the engagement. Most of the comments is pointing towards that sustainability aspect of it. Like, how do we even sustain things? Do we have the money? What are all the other environmental considerations? And how do we get this particular green energy to the end users? So the German government is doing a lot around this area in Nigeria as well. So there's a lot of local activities, local research, and local opportunities around hydrogen as well. Our speaker, I think, is also a beneficiary as well of the German government's hydrogen program. I'm going to put on the chat as well for those that want to read more or want to, understand more around those financial and cost implications. I'll add some things on the chat around agencies who are talking about this as well and are also funding developments in hydrogen research and deployments, right? So by all means, it's a new sector that is recently just having these early conversations around how it will work out, So thank you all for coming. For the rated research opportunity that we posted, it is for solar PV, okay? So if you're interested in researching solar PV technology specifically, or you're already a researcher in that, or you want to get research experience because you're trying to apply for a PhD scholarship and you need that research experience, please fill that form. If you have any research experience before, that would be useful. But by all means, it's really to empower young people who in research and to mentor them as we get our own, as we promote clean tech research in Nigeria locally, and also to offer those opportunities to these young ones. So fill that form. Thank you so much, our speaker. Thank you. Over to you now, Solomon.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Glory. I also want to thank our speaker, Engineer Emmanuel Aremu, for making our time to be part of this RETTI webinar series. And I also want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you that stayed through the webinar. It's been a wonderful time, I must say, and we'll continue to have webinars like this where we bring key topics in the industry, renewable energy space. So quickly, I also shared on the chat box the RETTI LinkedIn handle, so we can always click on the link and then see more what RETTI is all about, updates around what we are working on, the research we are currently on, the assembly factory that engineer Emmanuel also mentioned, and also the whole hydrogen space. So it's great. And also we have our training, just to also mention, we have a training coming up for next month. I also posted that on the platform, on the chat box, 3rd of February to the 14th, basically on how to size a PV system, how to install a PV system, a solar system in our homes, industries, commercial installations. So it's a whole lot of package. So you can as well also share it with people that you feel that I need this skill. It's the basic skill what everybody is talking about, the best alternative to renewable energy. So I posted the link for that training coming up for next month. And there's a lot of benefits with that training. One of which, if I'm to mention, is a book authored by Miss Gloria Ogwebo herself, titled "How to Make Money from Solar." How do we make money from solar? So that's also one of the benefits that we get at that training. Free copies. She's sharing out free copies of that book, "How to Make Money from Solar," and also internship opportunities are there. Startup kits is also part of that training that is coming up. So I encourage us to sign up and also follow our speaker for today, Engineer Emmanuel Aremu. He's also on LinkedIn, which it will be shared. And then his email for further questions, concerns around the whole topic, subject matter on hydrogen. His email is on the platform also, so you can feel free to reach out to him, and I'm sure he will be willing to collaborate and work with you. So it's been a wonderful time, I must say, from my end, quite impactful and insightful. So at this point, I think if I must say it's been engaging, and then we must call it a day, and then we wrap up the webinar series. So thank you for being part of this section again, and I must say have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you, and have a good day. Ciao.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Bye-bye.